It's a really exciting day because my box of brand new David Austin roses just came in the mail. It actually came in the mail yesterday, and they have been soaking in some water in the sink in our laundry room, and they're ready to go and ready to be planted. So that's what we're doing today. I want to share with you guys all the roses we bought, and then we're going to plant them together. As you can tell, this box is jam-packed full of roses. So let me show you all the different varieties that we purchased. Let's go over here to the table because it'll be a little easier to show you all of them. I've been waiting so long for these roses to come in the mail. I ordered them almost a year ago now. I ordered them with this particular garden bed that we just made together in a previous video in mind because I wanted to plant a lot more roses over here. This whole back side of the house faces south, so all of these roses will get a lot of full sun, so they should be happy in this spot. Okay, without further ado, let me show you guys all the different roses. These roses that I ordered came bare root, which, as you can see, means the roots are bare. There's no dirt or soil. From David Austin's website, you can order them bare root like this, or you can also order most of the roses potted up in dirt. I chose the bare root option because you get a little bit of a bigger rose, and some of them have shoots coming out already, so I want to get them in the ground today. The first one we have is Port Sunlight.
This rose is described on David Austin's website as having an apricot color and a medium tea fragrance.
Now, all the roses I'm going to be talking about today are going to be brand new to me. I've never grown any of these varieties before, so I'll be very excited to see them all bloom this spring, and I'll be sure to show you guys all the beautiful roses when they're blooming. From the pictures I've seen online of this one is a pale orange with a little bit of white around the outside edges of the rose. Some of the roses are going to be shrub roses, and a couple of them are going to be climbing roses too. The next one in the box is Crown Princess Margaret.
Crown Princess Margarita, I'm sure I will pronounce several of these names wrong, is described as having an apricot orange color with a very strong fruity fragrance.
This one, Crown Princess Margaret, I'm actually going to be training on the retaining wall fence right there behind me. Look at the root systems on that one. They're so wide. That is quite the root system on that rose. This one is Desdemona. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, forgive me.
This is a medium-sized shrub that has a strong old rose fragrance. Anything with a strong fragrance, I really gravitate towards. It actually is supposed to have peachy pink buds starting out that then turn to a whitish pink. There are supposed to be hints of almond, cucumber, and lemon zest within this fragrance. So I'm really interested to see what this smells like in person.
The next one in the box is Tranquility. Clean off the tag a little bit for you there.
Now, the Tranquility Rose is the lightest fragrance out of any of the ones that I've purchased today. It's supposed to have a light yet fruity fragrance. And typically I would purchase only roses with a strong fragrance. However, I've heard lots of good things about this rose and that it's very beautiful. And my mother saw this rose in the David Austin catalog and said it reminded her of one she had in her yard as a child growing up.
Then we have Woolerton Old Hall. This is another one of the climbing roses. I'm really excited about this one. The flowers on this rose look almost like a peony. I love that look on a rose when they're full and kind of round like a softball or a peony. I think that's really beautiful. That's kind of the rose I tend to lean more towards when I'm picking out roses, are ones that are those really fully double cupped peony style roses. And of course, if they're fragrant, that is high on my priority list as well.
The blooms on this rose are supposed to start out as a pale apricot that eventually turn to a creamy white color. It is also supposed to have a very strong fragrance with hints of myrrh. It is a repeat flowering climber as well. Some roses will bloom just one big flush and then be done for the rest of the year, and some roses will continually flower and repeat flower as well. So always look at the flowering pattern of your rose before you purchase it so you know what you're getting.
Basically like having peonies, but all summer long. The next one in the box has really, really wide roots. You see how wide that is? It's probably a good 2.5 feet, maybe even 3 feet across. This one is Bring Me Sunshine.
I hope Bring Me Sunshine lives up to its name. From the picture, it definitely looks gorgeous. It is a large shrub rose that repeats flowering with a medium to strong myrrh-scented fragrance in the color orange-yellow.
This rose is actually a brand new rose from David Austin's collection that was just released this past year in the US, I believe. There's not a ton of pictures of Bring Me Sunshine online. I often look at Facebook groups and pictures on Instagram of people's roses before I purchase, because sometimes the David Austin catalog, the rose looks a little bit different than it looks in people's gardens. So I always try to get a good general idea of how the rose looks across people's gardens and see what people think about it. Since Bring Me Sunshine, I love that name by the way, is a brand new rose, there's not a ton of pictures out there of it. I was able to find a couple and it looked beautiful. It did look a little more yellow from the pictures that I saw on people posting on Facebook and Instagram and stuff than the David Austin website. The David Austin website, it read a little bit more orange than yellow. So we'll see what it looks like once it blooms here. I've also noticed that roses sometimes change color depending on your soil, and also as the rose ages, it may change colors too. There's been a couple roses where the first year it looked a little different than it did the second year. So it'll be interesting to see what this looks like. And the last rose in the box, another really large root system on this one. Look how big it is. This one is Carting Mill.
The rose Carting Mill is said to have a myrrh scent with a medium fragrance. It's a shrub rose with an apricot orange color that actually says to have some pink, yellow, and apricots, but gives the overall impression of orange. So kind of a hodgepodge of different colors, but I think it looks really beautiful. It also is supposed to have quite straight stems, which should be nice for cutting.
Carting Mill looks gorgeous from the online pictures I've seen. This one's probably one of the ones I'm most excited about. I'm excited about all of them. I can't really say that I'm not, because I really am very excited about every single rose I've purchased. I've never met an ugly rose that I didn't like. I'll say it that way. All the roses came with this little planting guide booklet that has some information about how to plant your rose and how to prune it. I like that. It's a nice touch. So let's go dig the holes and get these roses into the ground. And I'll show you kind of a general idea of what I'm going to do with each of them.
I actually used a measuring tape today when planting all of these roses. Normally, I'm more of a eyeballing it and, oh, that looks about right type of measurer when it comes to planting things in the garden. So I'm quite proud of myself, actually, that I took the time to go grab a measuring tape. Now, I did use the kids' measuring tape, but it's still a measuring tape.
The plan is to have all of these roses bordering along this edge, and then we're going to have some lavender in front of it. I'm going to do orange, white, all the way down, and that's kind of the color scheme theme we're going to do the planting in. I'm really excited for the rose that's going to be climbing this little retaining wall fence. It's going to be Crown Princess Margaret. That's what I have chosen for this retaining wall fence. And then in between these two windows here, I'm going to buy a trellis to go right here. The rose that I'm planting right here in between these two windows is going to be a climbing rose that I'm going to train to the trellis there. That rose is Woolerton Old Hall, which is a really pretty peony-shaped rose. I'm doing about 4-foot spacing on all of these roses. Some are a little larger than others, but I think 4-foot spacing will still give me a nice tight border look.
I played around with a few different layouts of which rows I wanted to go where. I ended up deciding on where I generally wanted all the roses, and then I made my holes deeper. The initial holes I made were more just so I knew exactly where they needed to be placed, and then I went through and actually made them the right depth and width for each of the roses. Because some of these roses also had a larger root system than other ones, and they required a little bit of a bigger hole.
I keep finding all of these grubs.
The chickens were liking all the treats I kept running over to them. I probably found a dozen or more grubs while digging all these holes, and that's pretty gross. Lucy, my gardening companion, always likes to be right next to me while I'm in the garden, which I love, unless she is right underneath my nose. Sometimes she gets a little too close, but she's a sweetheart and I love her.
I just realized I dug too many holes, so I guess I have to go buy more roses. I mean, that's the logical solution, right? Yeah. Okay, they're all in the ground now. Let me walk you through where I placed each one. Up against the house, in between these two windows, is Woolerton Old Hall. Then over here on the retaining wall fence is Crown Princess Margaret. Then starting closest to the retaining wall steps, Port Sunlight, then Tranquility, Carding Mill, Desmonda, and then Bring Me Sunshine. I think I'm gonna have Bring Me Sunshine kind of trained up in front of this rain gutter just a little bit. From the reviews I've been reading, it acts more like a climber than a shrub rose. So if it's a shrub rose, great. If it's a climber, I have a plan for that too.
To water in these roses, I had to keep filling up the bucket every few minutes because there was a big crack in the bottom of the bucket. And I didn't realize that until I got started, and I just kept rolling with it.
So the color scheme is white, orange, white, orange, white, orange, white, repeating all the way down. And I have 2 more holes over there where we'll have to add on to the roses in the future. On the other side of the house, the Lady of Shallot Rose has already started to leaf out for the season, and the lavender is also starting to perk up.
I ended up going ahead and ordering a trellis for the wall between those 2 windows where Woolerton Old Hall will be climbing. The trellis just came in the mail, so I figured I would put it together with y'all. Now, this trellis seems fairly easy to assemble. It's basically just 3 big metal pieces, and you bolt them all together. I'm a little suspicious about it being flimsy, but I'm hopeful. I'm gonna attach it all together, get all the bolts tightened down as tight as they can go, and then we'll put it up and see how it looks. So, my suspicions were right, unfortunately. This trellis looks pretty flimsy. I do not have high hopes that this would withstand a rose climbing. Plus, I kind of want it to reach the top of that window there.
I'm not sure how I feel about the trellis yet. It's a little flimsy, and we don't really want something that we're going to be screwing into the house. So, I don't know. I might return it. I need to think on it for a few days and see if I want to keep it here. I think if I do end up keeping it here, I'll probably put like an 8-foot piece of rebar or something into the ground and attach it to that for some extra support. Because if we get a really good windstorm, I'm afraid it'll just fall right over. And that's not the best for a climbing plant. So we'll see. I don't know. Jury's still out on that one. I don't think I'm gonna put the other one together until Ryan gets home. I did buy 2 trellises for in between these 2 windows.
I actually did end up returning those 2 trellises, and I think we're gonna make something. I'm not quite sure yet if we're gonna have an experiment welding something together or if we'll make it out of cedar. So stay tuned for that.
My name is Cara. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel if you want to see these roses in bloom this summer and spring. I'm really excited and I'd love to share it with you guys.